Grand Stacy. So y'all understand that. I thank you for this invitation to the banquet. It was such a privilege to be invited, and just made me so happy that Daniel Wood thought of me and invited me. I don't speak much this is not what I do. So, y'all bear with me if I make a big mess, but like I said, what's said here stays here. I've been a preacher's wife almost as long as I can remember. I was saved when I was about 10 years old, and right away, I was very mission-minded, and when I was about 15, I surrendered to mission work. Now this was in the 50s, and looking around, there's some of you that were teenagers in the 50s. So you girls remember, we had these circle tail skirts, remember that? Some of them had a little dog on it. And under this circle tail skirt, we had at least one crinoline petticoat. Most of the time, we had 2 or 3. You know, you just wanted to see how big you could make this skirt. So, and we also wore high heels then, too. So when you sat down, all this, now just imagine this. You've got all this petticoat stuff, you know, and you sit down, and what happens? Right up your face. But also I was in the choir. And with my petticoats and all that, you know, and my high heels. Well, I'm actually a farm girl. I pick cotton, anyway, we won't go there. But anyway, the high heels were hurting my feet. So we were in the choir. We had to sit down a minute. I crossed my legs. Okay, it's a picture here. I crossed my legs and slipped off my shoes. That left my shoes. All of a sudden, we had to get up and exit the choir loft. I slipped my feet in my shoes, and guess what? They're on the wrong feet. I made it down, you know. But anyway, long about that time, I surrendered to mission work. It was just me and the Lord. I didn't make it public or anything. It's just me and the Lord. And I wanted very badly to go to Africa. Okay, now picture this. The circle tail skirt, all this crinolines mess, high heels, blonde hair, going to Africa. I'm sure the Lord got a big laugh out of that. You know, I'm the wife of Dr. Jesse Thomas. Some of you may know him. He looks just like him. So I had surrendered to ministry, but to missions, but it wasn't long after that, maybe a year or 2, this tall, blonde guy came into my life. Tall, handsome, blonde hair, looks like him. Innocent, you know. So, we married, and I became a pastor's wife, and he pastored all our life. He was not without a pastorate more than 2 weeks that I can remember. And there's sometimes I said, Lord, why did you send me to Africa? But anyway, as Daniel said, I am a widow, and I can empathize with you. You know, a widow's so unique and yet so common There's so many of us, but we're each unique. When we lose a husband, we lose a community, associates, friends, sometimes family. It changes your whole life, but I don't have to tell you that, you know that. But we're the same. We're the same that we always have been. Sometimes we feel lost and want to stay that way. Just leave me alone. And then sometimes we're lost and we rattle around trying to figure things out, you know. And then sometimes we're lost and we try desperately to re-identify ourselves. Who am I now? You know, what am I going to do now? Who am I going to be? And I saw this kind of an example of this. In our church work, we have association meetings where you have conventions or whatever. It's all the same. So I don't know why they fuss about it. It's all the same. It's all the same. But anyway, we were having a district associational meeting, so that you know where we are. And just about a month, maybe 2 months before this meeting, one of the prominent pastors in Conway, or minister anyway, his wife died. And he was a very popular preacher, and but anyway, of course, she was wonderful. She was very active in women's work, and she was just a wonderful person. But anyway, she died, and so this shows you what happens when the wife dies first. So we had this meeting, and then afterwards they served a meal. You know, just sandwiches, that sort of thing. So there's several widow women in our church, in this church. It was an associational meeting. People came from all over, and there were several widows there. 2 or 3 of them preachers' wives. I don't know why preachers' wives die off. Their husbands die off. But anyway, it come time to eat, and we went into their fellowship hall, and there sat, I won't name his name, but this brother, this preacher, who was sitting at a table by himself. Listen, girls, they swarmed him. These widows swarmed him. I thought, oh, goodness, you know. One of them got him. Yeah. But girls, we don't have to be married to be alive and active in our church, in our family, our community. You're still who you've always been, and you may have a little more freedom than you had before. Now, you know, I said may have. Be sure you notice that. Now, I've made fun of this. I wondered why these women would want to marry a preacher, you know, after I've had 50 years of, you know, I wondered why they'd want to get back into the ministry, marry a preacher's wife. But I really, don't get me wrong, I really love being Jesse's wife. Jesse's the pastor's wife, most of the time. My husband pastored small churches. He also taught Bible at CBC, and so small churches was about, you know, all he could handle. So that's a big job. I know in larger churches, that's big. More, you know, more big we have, more problems. Well, anyway. But in the small churches, there's a lot to do and fewer people to do it. And so through the years, I think I did everything in a church except preach and play the piano. And if I could have played the piano, then he could have gotten any church he wanted. The first thing they ask when they're interviewing the pastor, does your wife play the piano? But anyway, he had a church all the time. My favorite thing to do was teach the children, and I love to tell stories, and I love BBS and Christmas pageants, that sort of thing. And so I was real busy with that. Children of all ages just fascinate me. I'm just fascinated with them. And I pride myself in being a good teacher. I'm not being modest, I think I'm a good teacher, even though children will humble you sometimes. But I get over it. But I'll tell you about this VBS we had at Old Liberty Baptist Church. I had this great idea. Instead of crafts, we were going to set up a village outside, out behind the church. This is country church, real country. So we set up a village out there. We had a weaver, someone that threw pottery, brick maker, bunch of stuff. About at least 5 different stations. And see, I had learned this station business from college. So my plan was for each group to visit one station. Tomorrow they visit another station, and it's just all going to work out just fine. So I went out there, everything was quiet and good, everything was going good. I was, of course, the director. I went out there to check out things were going along. Nobody was at any station. Not one person, not one child. And I thought, well, what's going on? And I got on around the church, and there was a tree growing out of the edge of the church, big tree. And there's one of the Jones girls up there being, is it Zacchaeus?
Yeah.
And they were doing the story of Zacchaeus. Instead of doing what I planned, that story was not even in the Vacation Bible School program that year. But that's what, children will humble you. They'll do, and they're good. They're really good. She was good at that. The kids were enjoying that. Nothing wrong with that. And then, Gary, would you hand me my water? I'm just a little bit dry here. And since it's close to Easter, I got to tell this Easter story. Thank you.
You want to keep it?
Yeah.
Okay.
At Friendship in Greenbrier, we had a children's church, and it was my turn to take care of it, tell the story, all that. It was Easter. So, love the story, So, I went to the trouble to tell the children how that Jesus' body was wrapped very tightly in these grave clothes, and he was laid in there on a stone. They had folded a napkin, put on his face. And then we had the long weekend. It was quiet. Jesus was dead and buried. Soldiers rolled this big stone up to the door, and they stood watch over while Jesus was in the tomb. And then on Easter morning, these women decided to come and put spices on his body, pour spices on his body. So as they approached, they said, how are we going to move the stone? Well, about that time, of course, I had to get everything in, I had to take a little freedom, you know. So about that time, it was a terrible earthquake. That big old stone began jumping up and down like that, you know, and it rolled away and fell down. And then, there in the doorway was Jesus. He was alive. And our youth minister's son was sitting there. He's 3. He's looking at me through the whole thing. And he's 3. And I thought, boy, I got his attention. You know, I'm good. I said, there stood Jesus in the doorway. He's alive. And Caden said, was he naked? What do you do? Like I said, children will humble you every time. Soon after I lost Jesse, I had a friend visit me. And she had recently lost her husband. And she had several suggestions, bits of advice to help me begin the rest of my life. And most of it was lost in my grieving. It just went somewhere. But one thing she said stuck. She said, the reason the Lord took Jesse and not you is because he still has work for you to do. And that hit me, you know. And I do love the Lord. And I let those words take over my life. And I asked God, what would you have me to do? It's not been clear, hardly ever clear, what he wants of me. But every little thing that helps the spread of the gospel or helps his church, I'm willing to do. And that is the way it will be with you. If you give yourself up to it, the Lord will find you something to do. Now we're not looking for big things, you know, that people are going to notice. At least in my case, nothing that people are going to notice. But the Lord notices, the Lord sees, and he will help you to serve him. He's given me things to do. My church is small, very small, and not too, well, I guess about 3 years ago, the church decided it'd be nice for me to write notes to the sick and then send them birthday cards and stuff like that, you know. How many of you love to do that? Well, I really don't, but the Lord gave me that job, and I do it, you know, I do. And I am blessed for it, I really am, I'm blessed for it. So you don't have to be married to have a good life. An active life, active in your church or your family or community to make a difference. You don't have to be married to make a difference. You don't have to be married to be happy. You don't have to be married to make a difference in other people's lives, to find joy. And tonight we're going to look for a minute at a woman in the Bible who gets, I think, very little attention. But God used her in a most important way. We're going to take just a short look at Naomi. All of you are probably familiar with Naomi. She was the mother-in-law of Ruth. So basically that's what we know about her. But during the time of the judges, a great famine fell in the land of Judah. That's the area where Bethlehem is. Elimelech, a man of that area, he was quite dominant in his tribe, and he was expected to be an example of leadership, with faith in God, trusting God to help them through the famine. In order to provide for his family, he picked up his wife and 2 sons, and they went to Moab. Now, we think that's a long way, but Moab was about 30, 40 miles away. But if you're walking, it's a long way. So that family went to Moab, where there was food. We aren't told how long they stayed there before Elimelech, I can't even say his name, died. But Naomi was now a widow. Her husband had died. She had 2 sons. Her sons married Moabite women, Oprah and Ruth. All went well for about 10 years, and then both sons died. Both. Now Naomi was a widow indeed. She had no husband, she had no children, she had no family. And she's in a foreign land that, contrary to her God, and she has 2 daughter-in-laws. She decided she loved her daughter-in-laws, but she felt it would be better for them to go back to their families and their God, and she would find her way back to Judah, back to Bethlehem. So she told the girls she was leaving, and she told them to go back to your family. Oprah went back, but Ruth would not go. So Naomi kept insisting that Ruth go back. And finally, Ruth says this is from the Bible. Please stop urging me to leave you or turn back from following you. This is Ruth speaking to Naomi. For where you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God will be my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. Then she added to that, that may the Lord do worse than death to me if I do not keep this pledge to you. So she was, her love for Naomi was deep. Her love and respect for Naomi was great. Okay, Naomi had no one but now Ruth. So why did Ruth follow so hard after Naomi? So let's look at her statements one at a time. Had not Naomi done any great deed or great work? No. She had just been a wife and a mother. Was she famous or rich? No. She was a penniless widow with little hope for a future and probably too old to work in the fields once she did get home. It was not what Naomi had done, it was who she was. And that's what we want to kind of concentrate on tonight. Who she was. Who are you? Ruth saw security in Naomi when she said, please let me follow you. I don't want to be far from you. It doesn't matter where you go. I trust you. Outside your shadow, I'm lost. I don't know what to do. I'm vulnerable. This is what Ruth was saying to Naomi. And we've all seen pictures of the dad walking in the snow or in sand, and the little son our daughter is walking in his steps. This is what I see in Ruth following Naomi. She wanted to be like Naomi. Then Ruth says, where you lodge, I will lodge. Ruth was at home with Naomi. Can we really describe the feeling of home? Just think about it. Home means so much. I've been away from home over around 65 years, maybe a year or two more. I still get homesick for home, where mom and daddy are. I'm loved there. Mom and daddy's there. All is well. Don't have to worry about a thing. I'm accepted. I'm cared for. I'm protected. And I can relax. I can lay down the cares of the day. I'm home. This is what Naomi meant to Ruth. She could be home with Ruth. I had a sweet little I'll just name him son. I call him McCoy, his name's Arthur. Call him McCoy because McCoy is my name. Oh, gotta do what you gotta do. But Arthur climbed up in the chair at my table. And nobody was paying attention to him. Not even, well I was, but he didn't know it. He pulled a bowl of fruit over there to himself, eating it. He said, this feels like home. He blessed my heart, and he wasn't even talking to me, but he was at home. He could do what he wanted to do. Nobody's fussing at him. He was at Mandy's table, and he just pulled that fruit up there. This feels like home, he says. Love that McCoy. Are people at home at your house? I'm just almost sure that most of you can say yes. If anyone comes to your house and sits at your table, do they feel at home? It's not much to ask. You can do that. And that pleases God. And that's the way Naomi was. Everyone was home at her house. Your people will be my people, Ruth said. I want to belong to something, to someone, to a tribe. I want to belong. I want to be part of a family. With a family, I have a foundation. I know where I came from. People love me. Someone has expectations of me. I'm held accountable by those I respect and love. I'm held to a set of moral and social values. Your people will be my people. Our people stand for a set of values. I'm gifted with the family's right to freedom and possessions. This is ours. We believe in the same things. We support the same projects. We are the same. We are on the same side. I can depend on you. My people. These are my people. We see things alike. I don't know what it's like not to have a people. I was reared on a farm, and I'm number 11 of 12 children. And so I was down, close to the end there, but our family, almost every Sunday, my older siblings would come with their children, which was, my playmates, mama's grandchildren. We had a people. We knew where we belonged. We knew where Daddy was born and what Daddy did. and his daddy did for a living. We knew where Mama's parents came from, a little bit of their history. We were a people, and I say that, and I hesitated to mention this, but I do know what it means not to have a people, because my sweet husband Jesse did not feel that he had a people. When he was 1 year old, his father died, and his mother and the 4 boys, little boys, moved away. They never, ever connected again with the Thomas family. And he was almost tortured, not knowing where he came from. Who are my people? He tried and tried to reconnect, and that didn't go good. But he tried so hard to have a people. And Gary, Julie, and David, my three children, we were his people. His grandchildren were his people. But I know how it is because I saw him suffer through this. And then Ruth said, "Your God will be my God." Now this statement excels all the previous. Naomi loved and served God in such a way that Ruth sought after and found the one and only true God. Now that is the message right there. Live, you don't have to go out witnessing and stuff. Now, I'm not against it. But you know, I have friends and I myself, it's hard for me to go out and witness to people. They have to ask me. If they ask me, I'm more than happy to share. But you don't have to do that. You just live a life that says, just written, looks like it's written across you. My God is the true God. Jesus Christ is Lord. You don't even have to wear it, live it. That's the only way people are going to believe you. You've got to live it. Live in such a way that people will know. Even if they barely know you, they'll know you're a Christian and they know you serve God. I've got a little friend that lives down the road from me. She's an atheist. But she knew from the first time she came in my house that I was a Christian. And I didn't have to tell her. She knew. And so she tells me, you know, I don't believe in God. Now, I said, I know that. But you know what? Until she asked me, only thing I can do is live as close to God as I can and show Him. I show Jesus through me. And that you can do that. We don't have to do anything big. We don't have to make a big mark on the world. We don't have to be famous, nothing like that. Just live for Christ. Now there's, let's see if I can tell this right. There's a painting in the dining hall. There's a big, ancient dining hall in Milan, Italy. Milan. And on the back of that dining hall is where Leonardo da Vinci painted the Lord's Supper. It's painted from one end to the other. And in the middle of it, someone wanted a door there, cut out a door. You know, no, I don't know when, but they did. This space, this painting, hundreds of years old. You know how old, Julie?
She'll look it up.
She'll look it up, okay. But anyway, it's hundreds of years old. It is so famous. It's worth millions. And to see it, you have to, only 15 people can go in this room to see it because they've got to keep the temperature and everything even, humidity. And you can only stay there a few minutes, like 5, and then you have to leave. It's very precious, very expensive, and worth a lot of money. And that old paint, because it's that the paint's, 300 or 400 years old too. And that old paint is just barely clinging to that damp wall. But it's worth millions. And the painter is way famous. There's few people that don't know who that is. Leonardo da Vinci. But what you contribute to the lives of those people in your life is worth far more than that beautiful painting. I'm not gonna promise you you're gonna be famous. That's not the topic here. We don't want to be famous. But what you contribute to the lives of those people you come in contact with and serve God, that's by far worth more than this painting. Because through your association with these people, you may not win all, but you will win some. And if you just win one person to the Lord, it's worth, there's no price on it. They will get to spend eternity with God. There won't be any paint chipping off or wall falling down. If you can influence anyone to accept Jesus Christ as their Savior, just through your simple living for God, your regular life, you will influence people to accept your God. It's hard to measure the value of Naomi. She did no great thing, was not famous for anything, and is greatly overshadowed by Ruth. We hardly ever hear about Naomi. We hear a lot about Ruth, her daughter-in-law. But through her righteous living, she was well known in Bethlehem and probably in Moab as well. And she persuaded Ruth to accept the Hebrew God, the one and only true God. Once the couple arrived in Bethlehem, Naomi guided her adopted daughter through the laws and traditions of the Hebrews, which was Naomi's people. Through her gentle leading and God's providence, listen to this, listen carefully. Through her gentle leading, she had to teach Ruth the laws, traditions, and what she could and shouldn't do. Through her gentle leading and God's providence, Ruth became the husband of Boaz. He was a prominent man in Judah and of the tribe of Elimelech, Naomi's husband. Excuse me. I know this, but I'm gonna read it anyway. I don't want to make this down. Anyway, Ruth became the wife of Boaz. And together, Ruth and Boaz bore Obed, O-B-E-D, who was the father of Jesse, who was the father of the beloved King David, from whom the lineage of the Messiah, the Savior, was born. How important was Naomi? God sent her, howbeit through tribulation and sorrow, to fetch Ruth. He sent her to Moab. God sent her to Moab. She suffered great pain and sorrow to bring Ruth back. Naomi probably did not live to see the much-loved King David of Israel, but how great was her influence on his birth. Okay, I will end with this. You may never know the influence that you have on people around you, and that is very likely You may never know until we're in heaven and they say, come up to you and they say, I was in your Bibles. And I heard you tell how I could be saved, you know. You didn't know that. You just did your job. You just served the Lord. You lived your life magnifying the Lord. Thank you for your attention. You've been really kind.